podcastjuice.net.
The planet is restless, Captain. They want their podcast, and they shall have it. I'll beam down to the surface. You have the bridge, Captain. That is illogical. These are Trek fans. They will challenge and dissect your knowledge with great emotion. It is a mission fraught with danger, peril, and grave risk. Suggestions? Send in the red shirts.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen, we're back. It's the red shirts. We're back one more time, and today we've got a very special show for you. Yes, it's the red shirts. We're back to do what we do every other week? And
yeah.
Is that right? We come out every 2 weeks, right?
Yeah, you don't know?
See, I love a crew that supports its captain. I really love that. Speaking of crew, who do we have here today? All right, we have as 10 forward. In 10 forward, he's tending bar today. Because I know he knows how to get his drink on. And that would be the one and only Big Sexy. How are you, sir?
So hold on a moment. Hold on a moment.
Here
I'm
we
looking
go.
at my view screen monitor. I look up, I see Duke Nukem. How you doing, Duke? I see, Green Lantern. And I see a naked guy with a blue screen who's supposed to be our captain.
I love the fact that he's referencing something that the listeners will not ever see. Other than that, he's correct.
But we see.
That's the magic of radio.
The magic of radio. And that voice you just heard, that is our special guest. That is Mr. Well, let me go back. None other than Mr. Rob Gallo of Midnight's Edge and his own YouTube channel, Robot Shlomo. Rob Gallo, sir, how are you today?
Oh, doing fantastic. Thank you for having me, guys.
Oh, it's our pleasure. Hey, but let me introduce my other crew member. I'm going to put him at number one. I don't think he's ever had a chance to sit to my right hand. That's Craig J. Craig, how are you?
Great, thank you. I'm your right hand, am I? Sounds very religious.
It actually sounds kind of dirty, but we'll leave that alone. Now, before I get back to Rob, we have something that we need to celebrate on the USS Internet on this particular mission. And that would be we've just christened a new cadet. Craig, would you care to enlighten us on our new crew member?
I just came from sick bay. Bones has given the all clear to Gabrielle, and she's a week old now and doing very well.
So you are a new father. Is that
I
correct?
am.
Congratulations,
Yes.
Sir. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Give
Thanks.
us the full name of your daughter.
Her first name is Gabrielle, and she has two middle names, Charlotte and Irving. And Irving is an old family name, and then, of course, the last name, Johnston.
Now,
So
when I
it's
saw
quite a
Irving,
mouth.
I thought maybe you were a huge Sleepy Hollow fan.
No.
Okay. Now, so she will be our Naomi Wildman without the horns, of course.
Yeah. It's hope she doesn't grow horns, yeah.
If she does, you got other issues. But in all seriousness, congratulations. I'm very happy for you. You had this has been a big month for you, man.
I know.
Yeah.
That's right.
We won't say about the other thing. You had a birthday, and we'll just leave it there. We'll leave it there.
A big birthday, yeah, milestone.
Yeah, you and I are not much older than the Star Trek franchise itself.
True, very true.
But
Oh, yeah.
let's get back to our guest, Mr. Gallo. Rob, tell us a little bit
Yes.
about yourself. Give us the lowdown. Give us the elevator pitch that is Rob Gallo.
Well, I like you said, not much old. The Star Trek franchise is not much older than me. I'll just leave it there.
Wow.
I've been a big fan of the Star Trek television series, the original series, probably since the mid '70s, when I was a wee lad watching it at home on a small, like maybe 12-inch colored TV or whatever it was. Grew up here in fabulous New Haven, overlooking the fabulous Fairhaven garbage dump.
Okay.
Beautiful garbage dump.
Nice.
So
nice.
that's a little joke we always say.
Hey, location,
throw it in
location,
podcast.
location. That's what they always say.
Yeah. We were known for, we're actually here in New Haven. We're known for three things: Yale University, pizza, and rage-inducing traffic. So That's what I always say. Yeah. Actually, I first performed stand up in 1993, and it's been all downhill from there. So it's I perform all around in the New England area. I actually was in a feature film, a small independent feature called Burial Boys. Yeah, I played a heckler in a comedy club, which I've no stranger to my share of hecklers, so very familiar territory for me.
Okay, well,
So,
I surely hope that you don't have a flashback and do that to us.
no. You guys like me so far, so but anyway, so I got on board with this YouTube thing kind of late, so I started my own channel, and Andre from Midnight's Edge, who's our master of ceremonies, the guiding force behind Midnight's Edge. He saw one of my videos about the Inhumans,
Yes.
and he liked me, so he recruited me from there, and I've been the narrator supreme ever since, which makes me sound like a Taco Bell item. So.
Well, now you have the voice of someone who might be in the recording industry, maybe as a voiceover artist. Would I be correct about that?
So far, I have not done anything professionally in the as far as voiceovers. That's something I would like to get into. Because from what I hear, the money's pretty good. So why not, right?
But now, I for some reason I get the sense that you do a pretty spot on Sulu/George Takei impersonation. Am I correct about that?
Oh, you would be correct. Yes, sir. Oh my. Yes.
There it is.
I'm George Takei. Yeah, and also has a little Sam Kinison thrown in there in the background.
Oh, that's
little
good.
Sam. Little Sam. Hey, how you doing? Ow.
I don't understand it, but I condone it. Oh, what? I completely screwed that up. Okay. Well, hey, man, it's great to have you. I love your energy. I think this is going to be a great show. But before we get into the crux of why we're here, Rob, I just want to let you know we have a segment that we do where, sometimes my crew, they tend to mess things up. They screw things up. I don't know. You can't get good help nowadays.
Bad leadership.
Are you calling me Trump? That's on So we have a segment called Course Correction. And before we get into the show, I just want to go back and kind of, redact, correct, clarify some of the things that we, including myself, may have gotten wrong on the previous show. Now, for those of you who remember, the previous show we spoke about William Shatner's book, Star Trek Movie Memories. And the first thing I want to say is, I don't know what I was smoking. I said that the book doesn't go into his time, Shatner's time shooting Generations with Patrick Stewart. I couldn't have been more wrong. I don't know why I said that, but they do go into detail about shooting the fight scene with Malcolm McDowell. He has a lot of quotes from Malcolm McDowell. He talks about, and I just don't remember right now, but he talks about what he was thinking about when he went through that death scene and why he says his last line was, I think he says, oh my.
He does.
Yeah.
Oh my. Oh my.
So yeah, he does go into that. And one other thing, man, I guess I am responsible for all the corrections today. One other thing I brought up was in Star Trek V, William Shatner talks about the original story would have had, or the original treatment would have had the Enterprise crew going down the river Styx into hell. And I had mentioned that the driver of the boat, or the guy who steers the boat, his name was Acheron, which is not correct. It is Charon, Charon, Charon. So I just wanted to set the record straight there. I am very OCD about my mythology and literature.
I'm glad they didn't go down with that storyline, really. Silly.
And you know what, Craig? In related news, water is wet.
Now, red shirts, total fake news. The failing red shirts podcast, fake news. Spending half the redact.
Yeah, exactly.
This is actually the Fox News segment where we redact 50% of what we said.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the last thing, and I have a bone to pick with Big Sexy, because he laughed a little bit too much. And you did too, Craig, when I brought up the Power Rangers. And I was
We're laughing again.
I was trying to, yeah, exactly. I was trying to describe, I think it was Star Trek V as well, the scene where there's a scene that was supposed to happen with some rock creatures that come up out of the ground. And I said that the rock creatures made me think of the purple guy from Power Rangers, and I couldn't remember his name.
Ivan Ooze.
Ivan Ooze. See, thank you. Thank you. I might have to promote him. Okay. All right.
I'm only an acting ensign right now.
What was that, Big Sexy?
You don't have promotion power, Captain.
The captain doesn't have power to promote?
Until you put up an avatar, you don't have promotion power. There it is.
This guy. Anyway, so I'm glad we got that taken care of. That's all out of the way. Now today's theme is about discovery, and I think our guest he's perfectly primed to help us break down this TV show to its essence. But before we do that, just a couple things I want to talk about. So, as we record this, the star date is September the 9th. Tomorrow, September 10th, we will see Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan brought back into theaters, and I'm pretty excited about that. I won't be able to go see it tomorrow, but do you guys you have plans to go see this film? Go see it again for old time's sake?
I actually would like to go see it. I may go see it Tuesday because I hear it's playing tomorrow and Tuesday. I have some things I got to take care of tomorrow, so hopefully I'm going to be able to get out to see that. But I definitely would like to see it on a big screen again. So I'm definitely very interested in seeing that.
Is it only tomorrow and Tuesday, Sunday and Tuesday?
Well, that's the schedule the theater in my area has it for.
I see.
So.
I see. How about you two guys, Craig, Big Sexy?
I think I'd love to see it, but with a newborn around, I think I'm gonna have to skip it. But maybe next time.
All you got to do is say you got to go into the office for 2 hours. That's all you got to do.
I didn't know it was back in theaters till you guys just said something. Okay. So, no.
All right. I might have some latrine work for you, Big Sexy.
On a ship, it's called the Head. They call it the Head.
Waste extraction.
There you go. Like the guys in Voyager, right? Those guys. So, all right, yeah, I'm really primed to go see this movie again. This was the first film I saw motion picture in theaters, and that was my first introduction to Star Trek. And as you could probably guess, it did not really get me liking Star Trek that much. Then I went back. I got convinced to go back to see Star Trek II, and that was in 1982, I believe. And I never looked back. I've been a fan ever since. So I've got to find time to go see this, and we got to do something special for this. We got to do something like another show where we reminisce about, what we felt when we saw this in theaters for the first time. But that's for another time. Let's get on to the main topic. All right, Discovery, Star Trek Discovery. So we did a show about this, and we put our game faces on. We went through and we kind of nitpicked it. We discussed the good, the bad, the look of the Klingons, whether or not it was really Prime or Kelvin Trek, what the hell is the story going to be about? And I think we all went away feeling positive, wanting to be positive. We definitely said the visuals look top notch. They look cinematic in scope. But I don't know how we felt about the concept itself. So we got Rob here to help us with this. And before we get any further, I highly recommend going to Rob's channel, Robot Shlomo, on YouTube. He has a ton of videos about Discovery where he really breaks it down, which is why I wanted him on the show today. So Rob, let's just jump right into this.
Yeah.
And Big Sexy and Craig, you jump in with any questions as you see fit. But there's a portion of your video, and I'm ashamed to say I work in media, video. I used to work in TV, broadcast. But it was a little, you got really deep in the weeds, and it was very enlightening. But just explain to the audience, give us the breakdown of the roles that CBS and Paramount played in the creation of Star Trek, how things got divvied up, between CBS and Paramount, and how that affects Discovery prior to it going on air?
Well, okay, I believe you're talking about the videos that we did for Midnight's Edge, the mini documentaries. What had happened was that there was a point in time when Paramount, who used to be owned by Gulf Western, they were sold off to Viacom. And for those who are unfamiliar, Paramount was a very prominent company. They had actually a lot of other interests. They actually owned Madison Square Garden at one time.
Oh, I did not know that.
And and they owned Madison Square Garden, the New York Knicks, the New York Rangers, and Radio City Music Hall. So they were pretty well entrenched in the entertainment business. They were sold off to actually Viacom acquired Paramount, and then Paramount and Viacom in particular, they had purchased CBS. Now Paramount up until that time was the sole proprietor of the Star Trek rights. Mm-hmm. And then when the acquisition of CBS happened, the television rights got split up. CBS took because it was all one company, and at that time, who cared, really? Mm-hmm. So CBS got control of the Star Trek television rights. Paramount had control of the Star Trek movie rights. They were all under the same umbrella, though, under the same Viacom umbrella. Then there was a corporate action in 2005. The company split. CBS became its own thing, and Paramount was split off into it stayed under the Viacom umbrella, but the two companies were separate. But unfortunately, what happened was CBS still has the Star Trek television rights. They have the rights to the original series. They have the rights to to Voyager, the Next Generation, and they really own the Star Trek IP. But Paramount has a sub-license. If I'm remembering the information from my video correctly, Paramount does license the rights to the movies, and to do anything new with Star Trek, such as the J.J. Abrams films, they have to acquire a sub-license from CBS. Okay. And to use any elements from that, they also have to acquire element from that. Like the Tribble in Star Trek Into Darkness.
Yes.
Paramount had to ask specifically CBS, can we please use a Tribble in this? And so like anything, names, everything, it all has to come from the CBS side, which makes things more difficult. And what Andre had found out, because Andre does most of the heavy lifting with this, what Andre discovered was that the show is actually, Discovery is being made under the Paramount license, and CBS is actually licensing the show, licensing an alternative license. They're keeping it separate from the original series, really. And so it is being made. What we found out is being made under a separate license. So which is why everything kind of has to look different. Everything they're saying it's the prime timeline, but only in name only.
But now here's my question. CBS owns all of the rights to the original timeline, the original series, right?
Yes, they own and actually there is sort of if I'm remembering right, and please don't, and if anyone out there is listening, I'm trying to do this from memory. Paramount actually has the distribution rights to the original series. They sort of distribute the original series through Paramount, if I'm remembering correctly.
Okay.
Like the DVD distribution and such. So yes. So that's it. It is a very tangled web of different licenses and rights, but CBS has the Star Trek IP. And like I said, anything they do it has to go through that. Because I don't know if you guys play Star Trek Online.
I've been invited to many times. I have not. I do not.
Okay, well I do play Star Trek Online. For what that's worth. And if you notice on the welcome screen, there is actually a credit at the bottom. Copyright of the CBS Interactive Corporation or whatever it says. So Star Trek, quote unquote, is owned by CBS, but it's actually licensed to Paramount as far as the films go.
I got it. Now, what's interesting is, at least myself and Big Sexy, we're comic book guys, so we know all about, right, Big Sexy? We know all about. We kind of get a sense of what you're talking about when we think about Marvel and how they licensed off a lot of the properties to different film studios. So it's a quagmire.
Yeah, yeah.
But now let me ask you. So, and I know you're going at this completely, with no notes, but maybe you can answer this. So if CBS owns the IP, I wonder why it is that the uniforms all look different, and why they couldn't have gone with some variation of the uniforms from the original series.
Well, from what I understand, it's actually a legal requirement that they have to make it look different.
They have to make it look different. Okay.
Because, yeah, if you notice, actually, even in the rebooted Kelvin timeline movies, even though it's similar, they are slightly different. There is subtle differences which separate the original series from the rebooted Kelvin timeline movies. Apart from the Bridge of the Enterprise actually looking like an Apple store too. I mean, it's it's so yeah, which is and there are I will give it up to them. The work they've done is very detailed. I mean, it's very intricate, especially on the Klingon uniforms. But unfortunately, if you had to say to somebody, where do you think this is from? I would doubt they would actually say, hey, that's Star Trek. So, which is kind of the idea of what they're going for. They wanted to me, if this was a generic sci-fi series, I'm like, hey, this looks actually pretty good.
What I was going to say, the reason I know you is because a few months ago, you guys did the video, which I kind of focused in on for today's show. And Craig brought it to my attention. And I remember Craig said, I hope this isn't true because I'm going to be really upset if it is. Because you kind of give the intention, or you kind of intimate that this show really is more Kelvin than Prime. Do I have that right? Because it does look more Kelvin. As you look at like the few scenes of dogfights that we see in the trailers that we have, the way the phasers are propelled out of the phaser cannons on the ships, they look more Kelvin. They look like they come out in spurts as opposed to beams, things like that. And the lens flares and all that stuff.
Kelvin sucks. I said it.
Well, okay. Well, actually, yeah, there is actually good. They do borrow heavily from the Kelvin timeline. Many elements, the lens flares and the visuals. It was actually earlier reported that Bad Robot was associated with this show, and since then it's been refuted. They've actually said that it has nothing to do with that. But I guess I was trying to track something down and I couldn't find anything about that. But early on, that was actually one of the reports. But like I said, but we haven't been able to find anything as of yet to corroborate that. One of the things is that they are sort of jumping on this whole thing they want to try to get the younger audience.
Yep. And
I guess the way they think to do it is the younger audience, they're familiar with the J.J. Abrams films and with the Justin Lin film. Justin Lin directed Beyond, I believe.
Right.
Isn't? Yeah. And so my guess is that they're trying to win over those fans first, and then they're going to try to get the original fans before. Just for the record, I really don't have that big a problem with the Kelvin timeline movies. I kind of recognize them for what they are. They're big, loud action movies.
Mm-hmm.
So would I have liked to see a regular Star Trek movie? Yes, of course. But unfortunately, this is what we got. So,
well, Craig and I have talked about this. We actually went to see the first Star Trek film with our wives together. Craig and I used to be next door neighbors, and we went to see the film. And it's a case where, and Craig, please jump in. For me, it's a case where I think my history with Trek is a impediment to me liking these new films, because it's just not what I know to be Star Trek. And Craig, you said it best once, that all the action and how fast the ships move now, and all the gunplay and all that, it's really not Trek. What makes Trek is its connection to our reality, our society, and how it is an allegory for our day-to-day living, I guess. Uh, and I think TNG did it well. TNG and Voyager, DS9, all of them, they did it so good, and it seems like now it really is an action franchise, which is not a bad thing. But for the person who likes Trek, I just think it's gonna be it's a hard, bitter pill to swallow, and I just hope this TV show doesn't take the same tack. Craig, share your thoughts about that.
Right. So growing up watching the original series, and if you remember from our very first episode back in South Africa, we didn't have television back then because they wanted to suppress us and not let us watch television. So I used to watch it on film. It sounds weird watching a TV show on film, but watching those episodes, I fell in love with that Star Trek and the Horatio Hornblower type Captain Kirk, right? He's modeled of Horatio Hornblower, right. And he's my captain. And I've enjoyed how they reimagined the series and the movies and all of that. I'm fine with all of that because time went by, they changed uniforms and all of that. I was supremely disappointed in Enterprise because of almost the same reasons we're talking about now for Discovery. The ship looked more modern. They didn't seem like they were predating the original series. And now, again, here we're looking at a Star Trek series which seems like it's much, much more modern and futuristic than the 60s set design and so on. I realize, of course, special effects have come a long way, but you can still make the ship look at a certain age and still have great effects. In fact, if you watch TV now on Netflix, they've refresh some of the graphics in the original series.
Yes, yeah.
So the original series still looks like the original series, but then when you see certain things like the graphics on the view screen and so on look much better because they're done with modern technology, but it doesn't detract from the story or even the way that the story originally played out. So the only way that, in my mind, that I can reconcile Discovery is if in the very first episode they go through a wormhole and they end up in a completely different universe. And that's why everybody looks so different and so on. Otherwise, I just don't get it.
Funny you should say that. Actually, one of the things we did report on was that allegedly early on in Discovery is that Sarek is going to set off an event which leads to what they call transdimensional universes.
Oh, no.
So that... Yeah, that is one of the things, actually, one of the early things we covered on Midnight's Edge with Star Trek Discovery, that Sarek will somehow initiate a flashpoint and that this universe is somehow going to divert from the prime timeline that we know.
So this could be
which
another
is
offshoot, like the Kelvin universe is an offshoot of the prime universe. This could be yet another offshoot, are you suggesting?
Yeah. Yes,
like
that's what we've heard, actually, and that's what Andre has. That's what Andre and the rest of Midnight's Edge crew have uncovered. And we actually went. We did that We did that story fairly early on in the show's, in the show's history that we covered, which it seems like it's a cop out, really. Like we want to do a new Star Trek series, but we don't want to do a new Star Trek series. But we want to do one, but we don't want to be tied down by the previous canon. So how can we fudge this? So,
well, now it's interesting. You said that Sarek creates a flashpoint. Again, Big Sexy. We know about Flashpoint. But now I reviewed your video again last night in preparation, and it sounded like to me you were saying that Michael Burnham, her character, there's something pivotal that she does that affects the entire galaxy. Now, is this an update that is Sarek, or is it?
Well, supposedly there's something involving her and somehow Sarek is involved. We don't know the details yet, but those are the early details we got, though, at Midnight's Edge, that because of her, and there's something, let's say, there's an incident involving Sarek that causes this, I guess, a fracture in the timeline, for want of a better expression, and then we go diverting off into a new path, into a new timeline. I guess we would call this the Discovery timeline, if we had to. One of the things that struck me, though, was during the first trailer, they said 10 years before Kirk and Spock.
Yes.
but they don't say which Kirk and Spock. You know, they don't say if it's the They don't say if it's the Kelvin Kirk and Spock or the original Kirk and Spock.
But Brian Fuller, I thought he made it clear early on that this was Prime Trek. So we were always thinking it was Shatner's Kirk and Nimoy's Spock.
That's one of the things that we found confusing too. That they're leading us on to believing that this is actually 10 years before Kirk and Spock, Shatner and Nimoy. But after Brian Fuller's ouster, it seems like all bets were off. And again, for want of all better expression, all hell seems to have broken loose with the whole idea of timeline and canon and everything.
I got to tell you, as much as I might not like it, it would make much more sense if this were 10 years before the Kelvin Kirk and Spock, because just the style and the look of it speaks more to Kelvin Trek. But now, actually, Big Sexy, I haven't heard from you. What are your thoughts about this so far? You being an attorney, I'm curious to get your thoughts about the whole CBS Paramount kerfuffle. What are your thoughts on that?
You're an attorney. I might need one after this. So.
Well, the fact that you just used the word kerfuffle, definitely lends some credence to the seriousness of the situation. Again, I'm going to really just break it down, to really simple law. If the people who own the IP, and in this case it's Paramount, correct?
Actually, it's CBS owns the IP, and Paramount sort of licenses it from CBS. Paramount still owns the movies. They still own the movies that they've done up until now. But to do anything new, they have to get a license from CBS. Okay,
not a problem. Then what they need to do, as far as defining what quote unquote new means, they need to have a broad, at the same time, wide-ranging yet specific template of what they want to do and what they want to use. Sit down with Paramount and say, or with CBS, and say, look, this is what we want to do. And considering the track record of the last attempt, I'm not talking the Kelvin universe, because we all know what I think about that. I mean, look at the last attempt for television, looking at Enterprise, which did not go over well. This could be done in a better way. My opinion is the people who want to produce the show need to decide what they want to do, and don't fall into that trap of, okay, I've got this property now, I'm going to put my spin on it. No, that doesn't work. That's been shown not to work at Enterprise and to an extent in the Kelvin universe. If you're going to make a change, do what the people with Rick Berman under the tutelage of Gene Roddenberry did with TNG. Do something completely different. And that's not happening. Now with Discovery, again, they keep going back to that little signpost. Well, this is before Kirk and Spock.
Yeah.
No.
The prequelitis. Prequelitis is
yes. Yeah. And my opinion on a lot of the changes they made, especially the Klingons. No. Again, that's change for the sake of change. Now, based on timelines alone, we've talked about it on the show, what the Klingons should look like, and that's not it.
Are you familiar with the series Alien Nation or the film Alien Nation?
I'm familiar. I saw the movie a long time ago in the 90s, yeah.
When I first saw the pictures of the Klingons, it reminded me of the alien guys from Alien Nation, the kind of potato head guys.
Yep.
Yeah.
It reminded me of the Lou Gossett. We talked about this, Lou Gossett Jr. from Enemy Mine.
Enemy Mine. I'm familiar with that too. Yeah. And one thing I said recently about when we did another follow-up a roundtable on Midnight's Edge After Dark. They said, "What do you think of the new trailer for Discovery?" I said, let me ask you guys something. A spaceship is a controlled environment. It's regulated. It's a contained environment. Why would you have torches burning up all the oxygen? I'm like, what these things? Nothing about this seems to make sense from any aspect you look at it from.
Elaborate again on that nitpick.
They said that the Klingons are very sort of fanatical religious sect, and seeing that a spaceship is a enclosed and highly controlled and regulated artificial environment, why would you have torches burning up all the oxygen?
Yes. Okay. Yeah. I'm not. That's above my pay grade to be that scientifically in the know, but it makes complete sense as you bring it up. But Rob, let me ask you one other question. There was something that was brought up in that video. The video again. Go to either Robot Shlomo or Midnight's Edge and check out all the Discovery videos. You talk about they brought in a contingent of fans into the writer's room as they were fleshing out Discovery. But then it's intimated that maybe the fans weren't brought in for what we, the external fans, were expecting them to do. That is, to make sure that they get it right in terms of the Prime Universe. And it sounds like you were suggesting that they were simply there to make sure the stories aren't being recycled from episodes of any iteration of Star Trek we've seen before. Can you elaborate on that?
That was one of the things we actually reported in a rumor rundown. And anytime we come across a rumor like that, we always indicate that it's a rumor, and that any information that you hear in that sort of rumor breakdown, it should be taken with a grain of salt. So I just have to preface this with that, saying that we got a hold of this as a rumor. We reported this as a rumor. This is not anything sort of official. That they allegedly did hire some, as they call them, super fans. However, that was to make sure that they weren't going to reuse any other elements, any other storylines from the 725 or 26 episodes of the previous Star Trek series, or the 9 movies, as it were, or the six original movies and the J.J. Abrams movies. But to me, that just seems, if there's any truth to this, to me that just seems like a gigantic middle finger to what the original fans, what original fans there are that they're trying to win over. Mm-hmm. That they're deliberately not trying to step on the original canon, and they're just like, again, this is somebody else's idea of what Star Trek should be, or perhaps for legal purposes they can't use it because they're still using some elements. I mean, Rainn Wilson is playing Harry Mudd,
right?
And like I said, you have Sarek, and you have the Klingons in name, but obviously, Starfleet, blah blah blah, and everything like that. But the way the information we got at Midnight's Edge, we were just, as more was coming out, it just seems like the more they're going out of their way to not adhere to the original series canon or any other iteration of Star Trek canon, and even the J.J. Abrams canon, it seems like they're going out of their way not to adhere to, and that this is going to be its own thing, and not adhere to anything else in the Star Trek in the history of the series.
That's I'm curious if a lot of that is driven by, like Big Sexy was hinting at, these are guys that are coming in saying, okay, we're going to put our stamp on this. We want to do what we want to do. We want to influence it the way we want to do it. Or is it them kowtowing, and not, maybe that's the wrong word, but being sensitive about licensing and not stepping on the wrong toes or anything like that. Now, to me, and I want to get your guys' opinion, to me, the first sign of trouble was when Brian Fuller left, because I'm trying to think, why would the showrunner up and leave? Do you have any insight on that, Rob?
Well, from what we read, he was ousted. He was actually fired, and actually there was an Entertainment Weekly article a few weeks back that largely falls in line to what we had said, that Brian Fuller was, for all intents and purposes, fired, because what he was trying to do didn't line up with what CBS and Les Moonves wanted to do. Les Moonves wanted a vehicle. You guys, for those out there who, Les Moonves is the CEO of CBS Television. Right. And actually, there's a story going around that Les Moonves doesn't know the difference between Star Wars and Star Trek.
Oh, don't tell me that. If I see a Wookiee on the bridge, I'm going to have issues.
All hell will break loose.
But the way the story goes is he was watching Star Wars one night at home, and he said, "Hey, where's our check for that? Somebody owes us money for that." Wow. So, yeah, Les Moonves, from what we've heard, doesn't really know anything about science fiction. And I actually read an interview about this past summer, where his wife, who's Julie Chen, she hosts this Big Brother.
Julie Chen is married to Les. I never knew that.
Yes, yes, they are married. Yeah.
How else can you explain her career, man?
Well, Julie Chen,
she's got some talent. She's talented.
Please.
Very attractive lady, but that's I'm getting off subject.
She's an attractive woman, but what talent does she have? Q?
Okay, this is Big Sexy. Big Sexy is going to hold on to this boy.
Send your hate mail too.
But anyway, Julie Chen, she had said somewhere, I can't remember where the source was, but she had said she went to go see Wonder Woman with her husband, Les Moonves, and ordinarily he doesn't like these types of movies, but he did like Wonder Woman. So anyway, take that at face value for what it's worth.
That means that Michael Burnham's going to have some gold armbands. Maybe we'll see her with a shield. Is that what's going to happen?
Fighting for her rights in her satin tights.
There you go. I don't have a problem with that, actually. But anyway, continue.
Yeah. But so anyway, Les Moonves, from what we've been able to find, he's just concerned with trying to launch CBS All Access as a platform for CBS's digital content. And actually, they've just agreed to a Will Ferrell series. I don't know when. Yeah, I don't know when it's going to go into production, but they are trying to use Star Trek Discovery as a springboard for everything else. And they're hoping that Discovery will pull in enough fans to make this viable. And so far, the only thing that they other than Discovery they have that's original, I believe, is The Good Fight, which is a spinoff of The Good Wife.
The Good Wife, right?
Yeah.
Well, but see, that makes sense to me that they would take a large property. It's intuitive that if I run CBS, I'm going to look at what property do I have that can launch this channel. It's Star Trek. But by the same token, us Star Trek fans, we're not, anyone to launch that channel. Star Trek, and I would love to hear what you think about what I'm about to say, Rob. Star Trek, to me, is behind the 8 ball in terms of relevancy. It's losing its relevancy. I mean, we're in the age of the anti-hero now, and no matter how dark you make Star Trek, it's fighting for its life. So to put it on a platform where you have to pay monthly, I just think it's like back in the 70s and 80s putting a TV show on Friday or Saturday night.
That was always the death knell for any TV series. We're going to be on Friday or Saturday. I hate to have to agree with you, but I do. That Star Trek is sort of something that is an anachronism in today's pop culture era, where you have anti-heroes. You have, like I said, they're trying to make everything dark and gritty.
Right.
And actually, the things that we found was that there are people behind the scenes who want this to be gay. And actually, from the interviews, you can find these interviews like in EW, Entertainment Weekly, and various other sources. It's all floating around the net that they want this sort of serialized storytelling, like Game of Thrones. And they've actually warned not to get too attached to certain characters. I'm like, great, it's gonna be Space of Thrones. I mean,
I gotta say now, I must be honest and say, little touches like that, I think that's what would make Star Trek fresh.
Yeah. Oh no, I have no problem with serialized storytelling, but if it's done well.
Right.
Just looking at Game of Thrones and just looking at The Dark Knight, or whatever, and saying, hey, we need to make it more like this, that's not really a solution to anything.
Right. Yep. I agree. And Big Sexy, you and I, we've gone on our other show, Geeked Out. We talk about this all the time. Don't look at Dark Knight and just say, let's make everything dark, including Superman, who is the penultimate character of
Don't get me going about Superman.
What's that? What? Man
don't
of Steel?
Get me going, but don't get me going about that. Don't get me going about that, please. Just change the subject right now, please.
All right. Course correction, part 2. Yeah. Now, Rob, that brings us to the more cynical part of that video. Not really cynical, but like, oh, really? Where you talk about.
You're going to be specific. There's a lot of cynical parts.
Okay, yeah. You talk about how CBS is planning for the failure or cancellation of this show. And you put into you throw out there a suggestion that they, who I consider to be a god in the Star Trek pantheon, Nicholas Meyer. He saved Star Trek, as far as I'm concerned, with Star Trek 2. But you suggest that, and I think this was in your rumor section, that they have this Khan prequel lined up, ready to go for when Discovery gets canceled. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so what we've heard, again, this is from the rumor mill and from the rumor mill, rumor wire, whichever one you want to take. Mm-hmm. So again, take this with a grain of salt. That test audiences have not responded to Discovery very well, and they've actually had to go back and retool this a number of times. And that the way it's tracking with focus groups, that nobody really likes this. And
are these fans of Star Trek, or are these just the mainstream public? Do you know?
These are from what we've been able to find. These are what the test audiences that they have come in and screen the series for. Mm-hmm. Again, so it's not necessarily Star Trek fans, but it's how they generally do a test audience is a lot of times they do it at theme parks. Free movie at 3 p.m. They'll put a sign out. You don't know what you're going to see, but they have a free movie, or they do it at a mall. Free movie. Please fill out this questionnaire afterwards. Did you like it? How did you like it? And they ask her, and that way they figure they can get a cross section of not necessarily Star Trek fans, but sort of the general audience.
Right. That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. We actually covered that. We actually covered that on my previous podcast, which is called Reality Wasted. About when the Green Hornet was released. That's pretty much we got the former host Greg, who's sadly no longer with us. He was telling me about how they do this, because he's worked in entertainment before. Yeah, well, they'll advertise, free screening, and you fill out a survey, what you liked, what you didn't like. And again, from the rumor wire, we've heard that they've had to go back and do this, I believe, up to 4 times. They've had to reshoot. They've had to reshoot the series a bunch of times. They poured a lot of money into this, and again, this is just from the rumor wire. It's really starting to get expensive, and the super fans didn't come in until after episode 6. Okay. From what we've heard.
Okay.
And they're the ones that are saying now you don't have to make sure you don't use this, to make sure you don't do that. And again, from the same rumor wire, we've heard that several of the actors are telling their agents, start to look for other jobs for me.
Oh, no. And what's funny about that is Sonequa just came off of a pretty successful show, The Walking Dead. I just wonder what's going through her head right now. If she's isolated from all this, or in denial, or
from what we've heard, a lot of them are starting to. A lot of them have said they regret getting involved with this. But again, like I said, take these with a grain of salt. But our sources say that a lot of people involved with this are not very happy.
Wow. Big Sexy and Craig, you have anything you want to throw out there before we move on?
Well, again, this happened in the 90s. You mentioned earlier about, everybody's trying to be all dark and Dark Knight-ish, and even Superman, which is insane. This happened in the early 90s with the advent, partially, of Image Comics. Everybody had to have stubble. Nobody smiled. Everybody was gritting their teeth. No, that's not what we do here. At the essence, Star Trek is not an action show. It is a show of exploration.
Yes. And
they're getting away from this. And, again, this Klingon thing, I don't know what the hell they're trying to do. I mean, there are so many things that could be changed with this. It's almost like people are setting it up just to fail for whatever reason. I don't know.
Well, I firmly believe that in terms of all the anti-hero, all of this stuff, I mean, Logan, loved that movie, Batman, Dark Knight, even the Ben Affleck Batman, I loved it. But you cannot tell me that, as an example, if you put Christopher Reeve today in the Superman costume and update those special effects, and you keep You keep Superman the way Christopher Reeve portrayed him. You can't tell me that people wouldn't go see that. If you look at Wonder Woman, she was positive. I mean, she wanted to kill somebody. She wanted to kill Ares was her mission. But still, she was naive and positive, and we must go to the fight. We must win. How dare you would leave your men to die? No, we're warriors. We're the good guys. And Wonder Woman was one of the biggest films this summer. So you cannot convince me that if you gave me a Star Trek that focused on human drama, that just happened to be in a sci-fi environment and had a science fiction tone, that it wouldn't be successful. Wasn't that what the Battlestar Galactica remake? Wasn't that all about? Wasn't it more about the humanity than the trinkets? Am I wrong?
It was, and that was so much better than the original too, because, and you're right, it was a lot more fleshed out, and a lot more about the characterization and the interactions with people as they undertook this journey, and not about let's just go blow up, walking toasters. I mean, it was so much better done. Well, it was bad English too.
What were we gonna say, Rob? What were we gonna say?
Actually, you were talking about even better example. Actually, Captain America, America: Civil War.
Yes.
And Captain America: The Winter Soldier and the First Avenger. I mean, Civil War is actually one of Marvel's highest-grossing movies, and that's ultimately featuring a character that is a very positive, very hopeful character, and that really has these core beliefs that are unshakable. That there is sort of an innate goodness to, to his mission, to his calling, and so I think CBS is late to the party with this whole dark and gritty thing. I can't help but think this dark and gritty thing is eventually going to run its course.
I think you're absolutely right. I really, to your point, Civil War, Wonder Woman. I agree. I think they're coming in late to the game on this.
And even the first Iron Man movie, if you think about it, Iron Man, Tony Stark is actually, even though he's an alcoholic and he's a degenerate, but actually he does have this sort of catharsis, and he becomes this sort of altruistic, benevolent character who wants to just make the world a better. Oh my God, I've done so much harm. I want to correct this. I want to make the world a better place now.
Exactly. That's a perfect point. Craig, what do you think? Any thoughts?
I think my thoughts go along the lines of, I'm still of the mindset, I probably said it a million times, that I am being positive about the show and trying to ignore the rumors. This year is the 10th anniversary of the iPhone. This is the 10th iPhone that's come out since 2007. And if you follow this, you know that the tech world gets freaked out with the rumors for months ahead of an iPhone launch, because everybody's like, it's going to look like this. It's going to have like 500 cameras. It's going to do 3D. It's going to do this, that, the next thing. And the thing comes out, and people are actually disappointed because it didn't live up to any of the press rumors. So I'm hoping it's the same here. I'm quite sure that throughout time, people have always spread bad and good rumors about things. And I'm just hoping that some of these things we're hearing are not true, and that the actors are not looking for new jobs. And I'm just hopeful, as I said, that they go through a wormhole and this story takes place in a bubble or something to that effect. And that's why these guys, the Klingons, look so different. I'm personally really, really interested to see what they do with Mudd, because his character was a bumbling idiot in the original series, but in this one, he looks like he's mad. So
he looks like a Lex Luthor or Maximilian.
Yeah.
Or Maximus.
Yeah, so it's almost as if these guys are all taking on alternate personalities. And if we think back to that episode, Mirror, Mirror, I think it is, where everybody's got a goatee and they've got ulterior motives, and the whole hierarchy of the ship is different, and it's a dog-eat-dog world compared to the original Enterprise. So that's what I'm hoping is going to happen. So we'll know soon, right? So the iPhone launches September the 12th, and the Star Trek Discovery launches September the 24th. So hopefully we'll be saying, wow, listen to all those rumors. They weren't true. This is a great show.
Yeah. Harry Mudd is actually one of my favorite characters from the original series, which is actually, he's a bumbling idiot, but he has an entrepreneurial spirit, So
yeah.
Now, Rob, let me ask you real quick, because we want to start to. I don't want to monopolize your time too much. But,
no, that's fine.
Well, I wanted to ask you, is it true that I don't know if you can speak to this or not, but they're going to release the pilot in theaters?
No, we actually have not heard that. What is going to happen and this is what we've read, is that the pilot is actually in 2 parts. They're going to air the first part of it on September 24th, right after the CBS's NFL coverage on regular over-the-air terrestrial television. And then the second part is going to be immediately available on CBS All Access. So the game plan looks like they are going to show you the first part of the pilot pro bono, and then hope you say, hey, I need to go sign up for CBS All Access right away now and see what happens. Whether or not that works, that remains to be seen.
I have to tip my hat to their strategy, because if that first part is good, we're going to sign up anyway. But I see what they're trying to do, but it just makes me sad because it's like they're taking this property that I love, and it's kind of like a chess piece to like you said, get CBS All Access off the ground, you know?
Yeah. I've often said that, CBS All Access, the rates are it's I believe $5.99 or $6.99 with commercials, and $9.99 for a month without commercials.
Wow.
Yeah. There's 2 tiers. I don't know if you guys are Howard Stern fans, but Howard was saying about that. Somebody, Baba Booey was telling him that. Says, yeah, Howard, it's $5.99 with commercials and 9. He goes, he says, I love Star Trek. I'm not going to pay $5.99 a month for this. So
wow, he said that, huh?
Yeah.
He said that, you have to forgive me, he still has his Sirius XM show, right?
Yes, he does. Yes.
And he said he said that on air?
He said that on air. And he said that right on the air, yes.
Yeah, he has a huge following. I mean, that has to hurt.
Yeah, and Howard was actually good friends with Les Moonves at one point.
At one point,
yeah. Well, there was a contract dispute, and he wound up suing CBS, and So I'd have to read up more about that, but those are the Cliff Notes version of it. So,
well, Rob, let me talk to you about another part of the video I found compelling, and I wasn't really sure where you were leading me in terms of the viewer, but you talked about, it was a little sensitive topic. You talked about all of the issues that some of the fans have had with the race card in this new version, where it wasn't diverse enough in terms of let's say Caucasian representation, and you went into a very intricate analysis of that. Can you just break that down for me real quick? What have you heard? What did you hear about this? What do you know about this?
Well, there's been some controversy over the quote-unquote diversity of the cast. And as we were reporting in Andre, actually, he was researching it. All these I'm trying to find the right terminology for these types of people who are trying to exploit. There are certain people who are trying to exploit this for their own gain. Let's just say that certain people on certain people on certain sides of the political spectrum are attempting to exploit this to further their own agenda. What Andre found when he was writing these pieces was that they are using the same 5 tweets and quoting those same tweets over and over again to sort of make the case that, Star Trek fans are these basement-dwelling, racist, misogynistic, homophobic, whatever ist or adjective you want to throw. And we've actually found that wasn't the case. But there were certain people who were just trying to exploit this for their own personal gain, whether it's for more clicks, whether it's to drive a narrative or whatever. The majority of Star Trek fans, I don't think have a problem with the diversity of the cast, because Star Trek has always been a very diverse
That's what I'm trying
series.
to say. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm like, there's mixed race character, there's an Asian character. Who at this point it's like, who cares?
Right. So you're saying some people are overblowing. It sounds like you're saying some people are trying to overblow the fact that people are upset about the diverse cast.
Well, it's the amount of people. There's a very, very few people that are upset about this.
Okay.
but those are the people that anyone who was trying to, I don't want to say exacerbate this issue. It sounds dirty, but anyway. But the people who,
you're not masticating right now, are you?
No, I'm not masticating.
Okay, good. Yeah, we can't have that on the show.
This is a family show, people.
Okay.
But what we found was that whenever there would be some sort of hit piece or some sort of clickbait piece about Star Trek fans are upset with the diversity controversy, it would come back to these same tweets over and over again.
I see. Okay. All right. So it sounds like it might not be that much. It might be much ado about nothing.
Yes,
Star
correct.
Trek fans are more accepting than we're being led to believe. Although we have to point out that.
But that's not what gets headlines, though.
Right.
That's not what gets headlines. When you turn on Fox News or you look at one of the right-wing websites, Star Trek fans are upset. Too much diversity on Star Trek. Can it be true? I'm like, that's they.
That sounded great. I love that.
I did study journalism for a time, and there's an old saying that dog bites man is not a headline. Man bites dog is a headline.
Yeah.
So.
I'd read that story. But
exactly.
But we have to point out that Sonequa and Martin Green did feel the need to write she put out a tweet, I believe, or something.
Yeah,
telling people just relax, or what did she say in her? How did she respond?
Actually, she did say it at Comic-Con. If you.
That's right.
If
yeah.
You feel this way, then you're really not in touch with the core values of Star Trek, or words to that effect. Yeah. That's a nice sentiment any way you put it, really. Mm-hmm. I mean, you think by now we would be over this, really. It's just even if it is a few people that are making this a bigger deal than it should, and to a large part, I got to give them credit that I do have to give Sonequa Martin Green a lot of credit. Is that unlike last summer with the whole kerfuffle, I like that word, over Ghostbusters, is that they're not overblowing this to a large degree. Mm-hmm. I mean, they've said, let's address it. Okay, we've addressed it. That's it. Okay, and let's all just kind of move on. Sonequa Martin Green and Alex Kurtzman or Aaron Harberts or Gretchen Berg, whoever in those involved with the show, they're not antagonizing the fans to any noticeable degree that I've noticed. Unlike what Paul Feig and Melissa McCarthy did with Ghostbusters.
Yes.
So,
okay. Yeah.
So, like I said, so they have taken not the high road, they've taken a higher road, if you will.
Okay.
Which I think is admirable on their part.
Well, yeah, and I'm glad that you and your partner Andre, is that correct? Andre?
Yes, Andre. Yes, we also have Tom Connors is another contributor, and we actually have a whole team of contributors, and I couldn't do it without them, honestly. So.
Well, I'm glad your team sought to address that. I'm glad that you put that out there. I think that's that gives it that gives your take or your assessment a well-rounded, like you've covered all the bases. That's great. Yeah. So before we close this out, I just want to go around the horn here and just get some predictions, just some fun predictions about the show. So, this isn't so much a prediction, but I'm just curious. First off, who here is going to sign up for CBS All Access? I know I
Crickets.
am.
I'm midway through cord cuttings, already signed up. So I've got no excuse.
And Big Sexy, you're not going to?
I'm not spending $6 a month to watch commercials, and $10 a month doesn't warrant enough of CBS programming other than Star Trek. What else do they have?
Actually, that is one thing I keep bringing up. As much as I love The Amazing Race, it is not worth $10 a month for me to go back and watch old seasons.
Wow. So you two are going to, in effect, turn your back on the Federation.
Well, I'm not really turning my back on it. I am curious to see how it goes on. Another one of our fellow contributors said, Tom, he has said, actually, here's what you do. Not that we condone this. Wait till the entire series is out and then subscribe for 1 month and then binge. So So
Hey, you know.
Midnight's Edge does not condone the practice of 1 month binge and drop. So
All right, now here's the prediction. Will Michelle Yeoh survive the pilot?
that's a good question. That's a really good question.
It's not looking good to me. What do you guys think, Greg? You got anything on this?
Yeah, you're right. It doesn't look good. She's botting the big one soon.
She's gonna get redshirted.
Yeah, it's red-shirted. That's it.
Big Sexy, you're quiet over there. You're a Michelle Yeoh fan. What do you think?
No, I think she'll survive the pilot, but I'm not giving her more than 3 episodes.
And that leads me to my next prediction. Do you think the show will go a full season? Well, they produced a full season. Do you think it'll get us? Will it get renewed? Will it get picked up for a second season?
Well, that's hard to say, man. We haven't really seen it yet.
Well, yeah, this is all predictions, Just like when the Super Bowl hits, I'm going to guess who's going to win. I'm going to put money down on who's going to win, but I have really little to go on.
Based on what we've seen of the show and the model they're trying to establish, no, I don't see this being picked up.
Well, one thing I've seen there so far, there are no advanced reviews. I don't know how far out CBS will have send critics screeners. Ordinarily, they send a screener to critics, select critics, and they review it early. Usually, it's about 2 weeks, and I don't think they previewed it at the TCAs, the Television Critics Association. All we have are reviews, believe it or not, of the trailers that we've gotten. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Did they show it in the up? Now I forget when they have these. Is it this month? Did they show anything in the upfronts?
Well, the upfronts usually happen around May.
May, okay. So they would have already happened. We didn't hear anything.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. The upfronts usually happen around May, usually May or June. That's when they try to get the advertisers on board with new series.
They show like it's almost like the audience is full of tests. It's like a test audience for advertisers. They get all of the suits in there, and they screen. I don't know if they screen the entire show or a portion of the show.
Yeah, exactly.
Excited to buy time on the show for the networks.
I will say though, and the idea is actually they're going to do in weekly installments, and they're going to go on break in December, and they're going to come back in January.
Which is pretty typical nowadays, right?
Yeah. That's the plan at least. But it does, if there's any truth to this rumor about Nicholas Meyer, it does seem like they're hedging.
Yes.
They are. It does seem like they are definitely hedging.
And it sounds like, and you brought this up in your program as well, that if they go that route, then it would be what is the format called? Serialized, where every season we get a different set of characters, like the American Horror Story format.
You mean anthology?
Anthology,
yeah.
Yes,
well, that was anthology, yeah. Well, I've read interviews, I've read pieces about Alex Kurtzman saying they're not going to do the Klingon War in the second season. So that could indicate that they're trying to do an anthology type of series. I'm not certain. We got to see if it survives one season first.
Exactly. Now I know I said we were going to wrap up, but I'd like to take another 10 minutes or so to talk about kind of like the fly in the ointment. And as a Star Trek fan, I'm a little perturbed by this. The Orville. We have to talk about this because on your program, Rob, sir.
Yes.
I think you posited this show as a good alternative to Discovery. And sir, I must fling my gauntlet at you.
Challenge accepted.
Challenge. I mean, now I have to say I don't understand this show at all. First of all, it was done in 1999 in Galaxy Quest. Seth MacFarlane just had a flop of a film, and he's Family Guy. I think is funny. It's crude, but it's funny. But he didn't do too well in the theaters. And this thing, the reviews have just come out, and all the reviews I've seen have been scathing. And as far as I'm concerned, this can only tarnish the Star Trek brand. Please, anyone, talk to me about this. Why are they doing this? Why are Star Trek fans shitting on Discovery and saying, "Oh, well, we got to give the Orville a chance"? I don't get it.
Well, hold on. It's two different things, first of all. Second of all, what flop did he have in the theaters?
A million
A Million Ways to Die in the
million
West.
Yeah, a million ways to die in the West. Yeah, a lot of people. Yeah,
That was a while ago, wasn't it?
that was about 2 years ago, maybe a year and
Yeah. So I wouldn't really call that a new bomb. Now, having said that, this is not Star Trek. We all know it. People who know sci-fi know it. So I don't think it's about us Trek fans shitting on it. Now, if he had come out and somehow gotten his hands on the license and made up a ship called the Orville that was actually part of the Federation, oh yeah.
Well, let me be clear, Big Sex. Let me be clear. The fans that I'm seeing on Facebook mainly, I'm on like 6 or 7 different Star Trek fan pages. They're shitting on Discovery and saying that they're looking to the Orville as their kind of to get their Star Trek fix, which I find blasphemous, to be honest.
I wouldn't go that far, because if you look at what we've seen of Discovery now, they're not really doing their Star Trek, forefathers any type of real justice yet. There it is. I said it. Oh, come on. The Klingons alone warrant ridicule.
Well, I just don't know how Paramount or CBS hasn't sued whomever's producing that show.
I'm sure a check was written.
Here's a random question that we have to think about. On the original series, the Klingons were the Russians, basically.
Yeah.
Right.
So who are the Klingons now?
And Rob, you can speak to that. You actually addressed that on your program.
Yeah, well, they actually officially they say the Klingons are they represent a fractured America, or the different sects of America sort of pitted against each other, and the different houses of the Klingon Empire, and this is supposedly a very old house of the Klingon Empire that has been isolated and cut off from the rest of the houses. And what is there, 24 houses of the Klingon Empire, I believe?
I did not know they had. Well, yeah, they had houses. I had no idea how many.
Well, this is the pre, like I said, this is that era that, and supposedly this is a more religious sect of the Klingons, which actually, and Andre actually did bring up a few times in our roundtables, which is kind of weird because and they keep talking about the idea of religion and the Klingons, it's been said in the Star Trek lore and the canon, the Klingons killed their gods. And there are certain parallels we discussed about this with a certain sort of fanatical segment of religion in certain parts of the world. I really would rather not go into it too deeply, but they're officially they're saying it represents sort of a highly fractured United States of America, which I'm really not seeing. I mean, yeah, okay, there are certain factions, but push comes to shove, I think, if push comes to our back against the wall, we would all kind of unite together. We've shown that before.
Yeah,
but like
you also said something. This house kind of represented isolationism.
Isolationism,
very relevant today.
Yeah, isolationism, and like I said, and fundamentalism.
Right.
That's what they said. Yeah. And that's it's a good idea in theory. We're just gonna see how well this is executed, though. So.
Well, you said something. Now that you say that, you've made me a little bit more hopeful about these Klingons, because if they're an older, isolated house, maybe they won't be the final rendering of of Klingons. Maybe they're just an older version, and maybe we'll even see the ridgeless Klingons. And eventually we'll see the Klingons that we know from the Berman universe.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm being naive.
I don't know. Well, they call the ship that they're on the sarcophagus ship. So, and so there's this, there's a lot of fan theories floating around that maybe they have to go into hypersleep or to travel. Maybe it's a pre-warp civilization. Like I said, we're going to have to wait and see how that plays out.
Interesting. The last thing I meant to bring up earlier was, all of the furor, and I admit I was a part of this, about Burnham being stepsister to Spock, because we've had 50 years of Star Trek. Spock's never mentioned it, but then Craig Craig set me straight, saying that we'd never heard about gYSBAk either from Star Trek V. But I don't know if that's something. Rob, any thoughts about this and how they're changing some of they're adding to the continuity? I guess it speaks to this might be a different timeline, right?
2 words: Cousin Oliver. So they're we've got the Cousin Oliver of the Star Trek universe here. So.
Okay. Oh man.
Well,
if you
go ahead, Rob.
If you people are too young to get that reference, I mean, go look it up. I mean, let's just seem like they're adding somebody. Well, how do we fit this in here? Oh, just give Spock a sister. I don't want to call her a Deus Ex Machina, but it just seems like, oh yeah, by the way, Spock has a sister. Well, how do we never know? Well, we just don't talk about her, you know. So
it's that lazy kind of screenwriting to me, where all the bows have to be connected, all the bows have to be tied, connected, you know, and it's like all you're doing is putting handcuffs on yourself, and us Star Trek fans are going to pick apart every little piece of continuity, and the more you tie it like that, the more you kind of going to open up pitfalls for yourself.
That's actually one of the discussions we had at one point, was that you're taking something that is a very large and expansive universe, and you're shrinking it down now.
You're trying to make it small. Exactly. But listen, we're gonna start to approach space dock here, but I don't want to end this on a down note. We're all Trek. I believe
we're for that now.
Well, listen, we're all Trek fans here, so. End of the day, I am excited to see what this is going to be. I'm excited to learn about it. I love the fact that I can't really tell what the concept is. You know, in today's world, you look at a movie trailer, you can pretty much piece together the entire film. Here, I'm getting bits and pieces. Rob, you've provided a lot of little nuggets here that are kind of telling, but that trailer looks amazing. I think about all of the things that I see, like that little centipede-looking alien. What is that all about? Why is Burnham in a outer space? Looks like an outer space prison. She's in a jet suit, doing her Into Darkness Kirk thing. You know, being jettisoned from one ship to another. Who's the guy that talks about I can sense death? He looks like a crew member, but what's he talking about? I love Jason Isaacs. I love Michelle Yeoh. So I am going to go into this. I'm generally a negative person. Would you say, Big Sexy?
Easily.
Thank you. I love the dramatic pause there. You took it a little further than I wanted you to, but okay.
That is great comic timing, my friend.
I'm generally a negative person, but I am going to insist that we all be positive about this until September 24th, and we can judge it on its merits at that point. Would you agree? Can we make a pact right now? We're like Red Squad. Can we make a pact that we are going to stay positive about this show until September 24th?
Definitely.
I will try my best.
I had never thought to not be positive about it until I see it. You know, I was positive about Enterprise, then I saw it, and I heard that opening song. I'm like, okay, we got a problem.
And then you saw the sonic shower. You were back on board. Okay.
Now that was good. Okay, that was okay.
So, yes, sir.
Fun little fact about Jolene Blalock for Enterprise. She was actually originally supposed to play Elektra in the Daredevil movie.
Oh.
Yeah, that would have been cool. But anyway.
I still think the woman that got as Elektra in the Netflix series, she's the dopest so far.
Oh yeah. Well, let me just say though, even though, like I said, we've covered this extensively in Midnight's Edge, and like I said, the rumor stuff is just that, it's rumors. You have to take it with a grain of salt, and for, you know, like I said, the end product could be magnificent. We don't know. I mean, all we do is we give you the information that we have. So, and what we've learned along the way. So, like I said, the end result could be fantastic. It could be terrible. We just got to wait and see.
I have to agree with that. Going back to the Marvel Netflix universe, when I first heard that they had Vincent D'Onofrio as Kingpin, I was underwhelmed, to say the least. And he did a great job with it. So let's see what they can do.
Let's see what they can do. You can't say it any better than that. So with that, Rob, my friend, what size? Are you large, medium, extra large? What are you?
I'm an XL.
Okay.
Damn cute.
You've got an XL red shirt coming because you've just been initiated into the U.S. Internet crew. You have a spot here. We have a replicator always ready for you. Okay?
Awesome.
Let me now before we go, I want you to let everyone know where they can find you, and give a shout out to all the people who helped put together the program that you put together.
Okay, you can find me regularly at Midnight's Edge on YouTube. Midnight's Edge After Dark on YouTube. I have my own YouTube channel, Robot Shlomo. I am the only Robot Shlomo on YouTube. It's very easy to find. Like I said before, I can't do it without our Master of Ceremonies, Andre, Tom Connors, Matt Weiss, Neil Ganti, Beyond the Blizz, who is currently working on our Alien documentary. We have a lot of people on the Midnight's Edge Facebook group who work very hard as moderators. Very friendly bunch. Sometimes, we can be a little snarky, but don't hold it against us.
Wait, stop. Big Sexy, he's telling me about snarky.
There you go.
But continue, sir, please.
But anyway, like I said, we have a lot of people over at Midnight's Edge on the Facebook group who we can't do this without. And we couldn't do it without YouTube providing the forum to allow us to do this. But if you see me out in the town and buy me a beer, I'll thank you for that. So, like I said, there's a lot of people involved. I'm hoping I'm not leaving anybody out, but please subscribe to Midnight's Edge and please subscribe to the Red Shirt Podcast while we're at it. I mean, these guys were nice enough to invite me on, and I'm really thankful for that. So. Because otherwise, I'm just talking to myself here, and I'll probably look insane doing it. So,
yeah. Now listen, Rob, I want to thank you for coming on the show. You are a font of information, trenchant, groundbreaking, just ground swelling information. If you've listened to this show, you know everything there is to know about Discovery at this point. You understand what I'm saying? We left no stone unturned, so I thank you for that, sir. And thank you for plugging the red shirts. I'm going to go a little further and say, listen, if you liked the show, please go to iTunes or Google Play. iTunes, download us. But even more important, so that we can kind of cut through all of the myriad number of Star Trek podcasts, leave us a rating and review. Please do that. You can find us also on Tumblr at Red Shirts. You can find us on Twitter, RedShirts1701. You can find us on Facebook, Red Shirts, a Star Trek podcast. And last but not least, you can email us, redshirtspodcast@gmail.com. If you have any questions or anything that you feel we didn't cover, please leave it in any of the forums or chats on any of those platforms. We will be sure to get back to you. And with that, again, Mr. Gallo, thank you so much. We will see you all in a couple of weeks. Take care. Ladies and gentlemen, you know what it's time. Here we go. Pick up.
Did you get our levels right this time?
The hell with levels.
Okay.
Levels, Jerry. Levels. Oh, my.
Red Shirts is not endorsed by Paramount Pictures, Viacom, or CBS. It is intended for entertainment and informational purposes only. Star Trek, the Star Trek logo, and all names, pictures, and audio of Star Trek characters are registered trademarks and/or copyrights of their respective trademark and/or copyright holders.